I believe everyone has a story to tell. Through seeking true, authentic insights about the entrepreneurial journey, I provide a platform for our peers to share their stories and inspire those that listen. This is the County Business Talks podcast, produced by H2 Productions.
From that sort of early days and that commitment, I think I just showed that I had what it takes, really. It was hard, it was tough, and there was a lot of sort of sacrifices. I wasn't tough enough. I didn't quite have it mentally. It was something that I had to look at, and it wasn't something that came naturally, and I needed to ask for help, because within a year, I was standing on the top of that rostrum in Barcelona at the Olympics. And I always say, as much as 70% of it was in the mind that got me there on that day. It's about believing in the process, but you have to know what that process is. That is probably my low point of my whole career, being, you're reigning Olympic champion and you're getting carried off the track with a, torn Achilles tendon. I suppose one of the one regrets that I might never have, I'm not sure I ever really celebrated, the real highs of being an Olympic champion or a world champion, because you're so scared of failure. You're so scared that you're only ever as good as your last race. You're back on that roller coaster and you're back out there. You can only ever do your best that you can do. And if that's good enough on the day, then fine. If it's not, that's still the best version of you on that day, and be proud of it. But one of the biggest things I've learned, I guess, over the years is, to actually be myself.
Seeing amazing places while I was reading amazing books, while I was with amazing people, and occasionally with most beautiful women, I suppose. And that seemed to me the way to live. But I wanted to see the world while it was still there, and I'm really, really fucking glad I did. So I had a Mont Blanc pen, and I went to about 10 countries and I wrote a book. It took me 349 days less than that actually. About 310 days to write it. I was in Perth in Australia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, all of these mad things happened to me. But I wrote a book with a pen, and that's probably the greatest thing that I own, is that manuscript. And then 3 days before I travelled, I got a phone call from the organisers, who's a really good friend now, and said, we've decided we're going to let you invite Steve Wozniak. You can have this game for $250,000, we'll give you 51% share. You know what I mean? As long as you get it, spend the money to get it licensed and all that stuff. And we said no, so turned down a few billion on that one. It's a book. My best friend died about 5 years ago. Me and his sister put his ashes on the Ganges a year after that. And after trying to work out what my book's going to be about, what my next book's going to be about, I'm just going to write to him and say, I miss you, man. But he was too ill to travel. So I couldn't do it. That's a regret.
Yeah.
That is a mofo regret, I'm telling you.
So they took me to the family doctor to say, look, we're new parents, is there anything you can do? And the family doctor said, well, we can sedate him if you want, so you can have a rest. You've just got a problem child. The way it transitioned was that my love of physical movement and activity translated into sport. I'd had dreams of going to the Olympic Games ever since I was 6. And then when the scoreboard came to life, I saw GER third, GBR fourth by the narrowest of margins. And, I can ask independent sources as to whether they thought, my opinion was we were robbed, and at the time it was a samurai sword of pain. And the emotions are very, very painful. And anger, frustration and blame, that for me was the hardest lesson. But also the greatest gift, because the next 4 years after those games were the hardest of my life. And we just managed our state, and the way we did that was we were not taking it too seriously, but we were really focused on our performance and the process. When we got up on the final of the Olympic day, my unconscious mind had been there so many times before that I was able to remain cool, calm and collected. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing.
When I got to about the age of 6 and 7, my parents separated, and my mum had a breakdown. 1 minute she was in my life, and then she wasn't. She was in the hospital, or she moved around, and I had a very, it's a polite way, but tempestuous relationship. So I was quite a mixed up kid. So my teenage years at schooling were essentially a write-off. I was really, really angry, and I won that pitch.
Wow. And
I got that telephone call on the day that I took my son home from hospital. So it's like, well, now is the time. I'm doing this for you, mate.
Yeah.
No stopping me. I did that for a couple of years, and then polite client decided to stiff me for about 15 grand, and suddenly out of nowhere I had nothing. I felt like a massive failure. That was a really, really dark time. I felt I'd let him down. I'd let my dad down. The darkest places, because I thought I was going to be bankrupt. We'd lose the roof over our head. I remember thinking my son would be better off without me, because what sort of role model would I be? Because I was a failure.
96 men under 45 lost to suicide every week in the UK.
I mean, it's 3 times higher than women, and that's it's because men don't talk. That's why I ended up getting ill, going to those dark times, because God forbid I'd put my hand up and ask for help. Wasn't in my DNA. Saved my life, but him making me ill made me stop. Otherwise I probably wouldn't have stopped.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Preston Insurance Brokers. Insurance is all about peace of mind, making sure that you're protected no matter what. There's no such thing as one size fits all, which is why Preston Insurance Brokers take the time to understand your business, how it works, and how all the pieces fit together. Because they understand your needs and whatever risks your business faces, they can offer you bespoke insurance cover to help your business grow with confidence. Always safe in the knowledge that should the worst ever happen, they'll be here to help you weather the storm. Protecting businesses for over a decade, Preston Insurance Brokers will ensure that you're always in safe hands. Noel and the team have been looking after all my business insurance for many years and offer a truly fantastic personal service. To find out more, contact the team at www.prestoninsurancebrokers.co.uk. Your business, your insurance.
So go back 30 years to find a black female prosecuting barrister was quite incredible, and I thought she was awesome. I just remember watching her thinking, I want to do what you do. This is it. That was my epiphany. It sort of ignited something in me. I just wanted, it sounds really lame, I want to see justice being done. I loved the firm. I absolutely loved the firm. But I couldn't do things how I wanted to do them. And that's when the slight non-conformist in me started to rail against, well, why does it always have to be done like this? There was no point leaving one traditional firm to start another traditional firm. So it had to be different. And this was my opportunity to do things my way. If you open the doors, the clients will come. And I just stuck to that, absolutely. It's kind of blind faith, because it had to work. There wasn't an option, because they fear that they won't be good enough, or that they won't get the work, or the clients won't come, or they won't earn the money. And that's proved the hardest challenge. But we do work to live, because we have to sustain ourselves and our families, but that is not all there is to life, and it's so important to kind of walk the walk as well.
If the writing wasn't all on the wall, it was certainly on a newspaper page. It was perhaps destiny that I would take an early interest in journalism, in the media, but I said no, that's not for me, because I thought that would mean I would have no time at all with my family, which was important to me. And so I got a nice letter back from the editor of the Sunday Express saying, I can't believe you turned down a job. You'll never work in Fleet Street again. I had 2 dreams, I think. One was to get to Fleet Street, and the other was to work for myself. I don't want to guarantee you, I don't want to scare you, but from what I'm seeing, go and get it checked out, because I think what you've got is MS. So that was tough. Yeah, I've got MS. It's part of who I am now. It is my journey through life. It's not going to get any better. You know, we know that MS is a debilitating disease. The reality is that probably for a couple of years I was in a dark place. I didn't want to talk about it. I met Linda Bloom, Linda and Tony Bloom. Linda Bloom has MS, and she has been fighting it really successfully. She set up a charity called Overcoming Multiple Sclerosis, OMS, thanks to the work of a really inspiring consultant in Australia who has MS. And that really opened my eyes to the fact that, whoa, you know, there are so many things I can do to keep this at bay, keep it in check, but I've got to have the right attitude. MS is a very personal thing. It attacks people in a different way.
Sure.
So for me at the moment, you know, the battle continues. The battle is being waged, and you know, I continue to have the upper hand. And when that's not the case, well, hey, so be it. The real things that become important are, for me, and I'm sure the same for you, Sam, is family. You know, having sons who are healthy, who have got good relationships, who are happy in life. That's so much more important than how much you got in your bank account.
As part of leaving school at 16, I was also, it was suggested that I actually leave home at 16 as well. My dad passed away 2 or 3 years ago, and I looked at it. I thought I spent a lot of time. I probably spent a lot of time as an angry kid, angry teens and 20s or whatever, as an angry person. But you can look at it two ways. You can either say, was he being exceptionally harsh? Well, I'm sure he was at times. Or was he suggesting, did he see something in me that suggested that maybe I would be better off forging my own route in life? I'd rather, I'm at peace with thinking it was the latter. With the row particularly, you know, there's some times when you're just in your thoughts. I've put at peace the fact that I don't need to challenge myself, don't have to challenge myself anymore, but prove myself. And I remember sort of saying to myself, if that's not effing good enough for people now, then I really don't care.
What's your one rule for living a fulfilled life?
Can I give you two?
Can.
The first one is actually from that 12 Rules to Life. And that is, judge yourself from the person against the person you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. And that's one. And then the second thing is, give more than you take.
One of the things I'm really passionate about now is kids' access to the arts generally, but music in particular, and that's very personal. I found my place, and actually growing up in Australia in the 70s, 80s, as you know, I didn't know or wasn't conscious of it at the time, but as a gay kid, finding my place there was really important. Yeah. This is a very special organisation, and I stand on the shoulders of those who came before. It's grown up over a long period of time. The festival started in 1967, but figuring out how a large organisation can actually have a bigger impact on its community and serve its community in all sorts of ways is really what has made me tick over the last decade or so. The definition of the business is about bringing people together. Everything that we do is designed to get a load of people in the same space, and that was the very thing that COVID prevented. It's amazing then to think, actually, it sort of was October 2021 before we were back open in the concert hall. It's a journey back for the audience, because 2020 totally cancelled. 21 was a socially distanced festival. 22 we were back, but still at a slightly smaller scale. And 23 feels like the moment where we're maybe returned to something which is much more reminiscent of the pre-pandemic years. So yeah, that's exciting.
What is your one rule for living a fulfilled life?
Ultimately, most people, the vast majority, I think, are trying to do good things and the right thing, and if you hold on to that somehow, then it gives you faith and energy in everything else. You can make things possible after that. So yeah, optimism and have faith in people.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, EMC Corporate Finance. Trust must be earned, especially in business. It goes both ways and takes time to build. That's why you need an advisor with a proven track record who understands its value and, more importantly, the value you place on your business. EMC Corporate Finance is built on a legacy of trust. For over 30 years, they've been advising and supporting entrepreneurs, guiding them through the challenges of private company ownership. Whether you're looking to raise investment, accelerate growth, or crystallise value with a profitable exit, the team are here to help. So if you're ready to take that next step, let EMC be your guide. For more information, go to www.emcltd.co.uk.
I grew up in East Anglia, in a really small town on the coast in East Anglia. My parents emigrated from India in the sort of late 60s. So in East Anglia, we were the only brown family in town. So that was kind of my life where I grew up. So I was always different, essentially. So I worked my way up in corporate. I was global vice president of sales and marketing for a FTSE 250 company. You know, had a big global team. And I had a moment where I was like, is this really what I want to keep on doing? It felt like the world was falling apart. It felt like businesses didn't know what to do and there was always scrambling around. And we knew a lot of women in their stories where they'd asked to work remotely and the bosses had said, no, your role isn't possible remote. And overnight, they made it work. So to create a really inclusive culture, it takes a lot of introspection to look at how you communicate, how you work, how you deal with anyone who's experiencing challenging behaviours, how you encourage people to have challenging conversations with each other, with people who are quite different to them, how you progress people in the organisation. You know, what does your leadership team look like? Are they all quite similar? Because if that's the case, then that's reflected in the organisation. I still hear stories about, let's give you an example, women being made to sign NDAs and given some money to shut up and go away. There's quite a lot of that. You'll be surprised. And obviously you don't hear about that because they can't talk about it. So many things about our society need to change. So there is a positive story about change, but there is so far to go.
Rinse and repeat. That sounds amazing. I want to be in hospitality. Something else that happened to me emotionally when I went into that restaurant or that hotel for our posh meal, and that was something that sort of rose within me. It was like, I really love the feel of this of hospitality, of this environment, and I love what it's doing to my senses 14 years later, because I was 14 then. By the time I was 28, I was a general manager of a 90-bedroom 4-star hotel. You know, I'll be 58 this summer, and so 30 years on, I'm at the Grand. I mean, you know, it's a fairy tale, really, and I don't have regret. I got a little bit of experience of what it feels like when suddenly the phone's not ringing, and I got a little bit of experience about what it feels like to shut a hotel and then reopen it, but nothing like the winter spring of 2020. But we got to business just falling out from around us. Literally, we want all restaurants shut by 9 o'clock on Friday the 20th of March. But hang on a minute, it's Thursday afternoon the 19th of March. I've got food in fridges, I've got people on rotas, I've got customers booked for this weekend and into subsequent weeks. Yeah, closed from tomorrow night. So I went over and I said, you know, Mr. Gallagher, and I said, I'm Andrew, I'm General Manager of the ground. I just wanted to, first of all, say welcome to the ground and I hope you're okay. Secondly, just wanted to shake your hand, if I'm honest with you. He thought I was out of earshot, but I was still in earshot. And he turned round to his manager. I can't say exactly what he said because it's a podcast. But so a bit of an expletive. Next thing I know, I get a phone call one day. I know you're a big fan, Andrew. Ricky Gervais is in the restaurant. And he was doing his tour at the Brighton Centre. And he'd just literally come in for lunch. Now, what happened in my mind at this point, Sam, I'll never quite understand.
Which was actually a tough period in my life, actually, because I lost my sister she was actually diagnosed, and then subsequently I lost my sister to breast cancer over that period of time. So it was really, I just remember it as a really, really tough period of my life, because I was actually diagnosed with ovarian cancer. People don't actually always realise what the symptoms of ovarian cancer are, and often people describe ovarian cancer as a silent killer. And then they CT'd, scanned me, and they came around and they said, well, you know, we found these large tumours in both of your ovaries. And then a few days later, I just couldn't move and I got taken in as an emergency, and basically one of the tumours had burst, and I ended up going in as an emergency operation and having obviously the ovaries removed. And that's when they actually confirmed that it was definitely ovarian cancer. So we were really excited. We were due to open. There was new life on the way. It was like a new start. And then boom, you know, it's like you never quite know what's around the corner. Because what's the choice? I mean, you know, the other choice is to lie in the gutter or to look at the stars.
My marriage broke down. So I gave up a well-paid job. My marriage crumbled, and I was on my own. I was used to earning big money as an employee, and the only option left to me was to start my own business, and I did it with £2,000 of borrowed money on my credit card. I got a load of business cards, a 10-page website, and I networked like hell. I ran away to Dubai, hence being at the Burj Khalifa. I ran away from debts, problems and life in the UK. It was a considered move to throw myself off the Burj Khalifa. I'd gone on the internet to look at painless ways to kill yourself. One of the reasons why more men than women kill themselves, 75% of suicides are male, because we don't ask for help. Actually, business is not important. Money's not important. There's two things I've found in life that are important. One is the health and one is your relationships. Because it isn't all about acquisition of wealth and money. And there is the reward. I was involved with an orphanage over in Albania and just taking some Christmas presents there with the little ones up to 5 years of age. I mean, that is just as rewarding as growing a business to 15 million turnover that I did once in the past.
Perhaps we just need to redefine what success means.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Creative Pod. It all starts with an idea, the kind of creativity that wins hearts, changes minds and drives new behaviours. Creative Pod is an award-winning full-service marketing agency that work with their clients to become their outsourced creative department for a fixed monthly fee. For almost 20 years, they've been offering clients a full-service approach in everything from branding, PR and social media to web development, pay-per-click and print advertising. They've been County Business Club's outsourced marketing agency for over a year now and have been a real game changer for us as a company. To find out more, get in touch with the team at www.creativepod.uk.com.
I've never really socially fit in. I've always been just outside of like popular circles, which is had a massive influence on me as a teacher, but also like where I am now. And so when you're growing up in a household where the parents just, it's toxic and it wasn't a great framework for my relationships, regardless of the relationship that I have with my mum and my dad individually and my brother. Stressed, have a drink. Sad, have a drink. Happy, have a drink. Party, have a drink. We're like constantly surrounded by parties. You know, I can't really remember a time where there wasn't alcohol in my house. Like I told you, I've had the dream of the black market since I was 18. And part of the reason why I've picked it up and I've put it down over a lot of time over the years is really because of the ingrained kind of messages that I have. I used to joke with, in fact I still do, with one of my best friends, Zoe, we should have been dead at 15. Trauma headlines are, I was sexually assaulted by another child when I was 7 at school. It was a connection through the horror convention circuit that we got through to John. Met him in London, showed him what we put together, and he was like, "You're crazy kids, you're crazy." But it's the 25th anniversary and like next year it's supposed to be perfect. Like, you can only do it with let me help you, I'll deal with the Universal Studios.
So branding was really at the very start of trade, really. So you had that signifies where it comes from, and this signifies what it means, and the salesperson in the trader, would tell the story. A brand is about reputation, a brand is about what people say about you. It's not about what the company thinks it's telling you. It's actually if other people around you say that brand is good, try it. In a way, I've had, it's been a roller coaster. Some things I've chosen to do have been successful, some have been failure, but you learn from the failures as well. To find your true ikigai, you've got to kind of, what are you good at? So imagine a Venn diagram. That's the Venn in the middle. What are you good at? What do you love? What's the world need? And what can you be rewarded for? If you get all those in harmony, that's your ikigai in the middle. And that should be your personal brand purpose. Jeff Bezos, who knows a few things about branding, he's the one who said, a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And of course, what he's saying is it's true. Brand is about reputation. It's not about what you tell them. It's about what they say about you.
That we're not from an entrepreneurial background at all, and so the fact that we've both ended up in this area, I think it is quite unusual in some ways.
There was always something that was, what if, or what? I think it's that what if it doesn't work, and I've always had the approach of why wouldn't it work.
That's probably my one piece of advice to sort of husband and wives. You do have to have the backup plan. You have to decide, right, if it's not working out, which one of you is going to go back into a permanent job, or you start it with one of you build it to a certain point before the other one joins. But we've lost the business.
Was it?
It was as bad as that. So when the pandemic started, we basically lost 90% of our income overnight.
2020 was brutal, absolute. I mean, if you're selling office furniture to people that aren't in offices, that's I challenge any salesperson. We've always looked at it as you might not share our surname, but ultimately it is a family business. I think team fit, team culture, and nurturing that is a huge part of our success.
We didn't have the easiest sort of upbringing, and that my family weren't exactly flush with cash. There was lots of times when there wasn't even sort of food on the table. I think it's fair to say that we as a family we did struggle, and it took me sort of years later, sort of going through therapy to sort of process all that. That's always been one of my mantras, that wherever I've worked, whoever I've worked for, is I do the job to the best of my ability. So I started Rubik's, and 1st September 2020, I'd converted, we've got like an outbuilding at the back of the garden. I'd converted that into my office, and the sun was shining, and it was all good. And she took one look at me, and she said, "What have you done?" I said, "What do you mean, what have I done?" And she said, "What? I know you've done something. Should just tell me. I haven't got time for it." And I said, "Well, I may have just bought another company." And so it was a leap of faith as well. Of course it was. But go big or go home, right? I started to recruit, and started to recruit quite heavily. And we went from, if you can imagine, me on the 1st of September, just being responsible for myself. To very quickly, we had 23 staff.
If you had to choose one, What piece of advice would you like the listeners to take away from that conversation today?
Nobody said it would be easy. They just said it'd be worth it.
I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Plus X. I've been a member for over 2 years now, and the podcast studio here is the home to the County Business Talks podcast. Brighton is the perfect location to create, build and grow a business, with role models and inspiration at every turn. It's no wonder that this has become a hotbed of innovation and entrepreneurialism. So if you're building your future here on the South Coast, there's no better place than Plus X Brighton. 7 stories of cutting-edge space, expertly designed to support all kinds of business, from newly started freelancers to large established corporates. With flexible, dynamic environment, ranging from co-working desks to private studios, their specialist facilities include a state-of-the-art prototyping workshop and media suites. They also maintain a community-focused event schedule and offer all kinds of business support programs. Built for anyone who wants to make a change, Plus X has everything you need. Find out more at www.plusx.space.
At the age of 9, my parents break up, so that was a big thing. My dad leaves the house. At the age of 12, my dad came back and said, listen, I'm moving away to Canada. I want you to come with me. I've learned English and became one of the top students first year. And that's the beginning of the mindset that defined me until this day. A lot of racism, a lot of bias, a lot of, a lot of pain that came with it. Like a master degree, I wasn't successful, broke up with a girlfriend, lost the house at that point in time, lost one of my best friends. And one thing led to another, so I've kind of, oh my God, failing in everything. I was in a dark place. I was depressed. Things were not working out. At some point, I'm kind of hit rock bottom, and it was either, I don't know, potentially, prison or all sorts of stuff, or break away and have a clean start. But that was the moment that I've decided that my life has to change, and this is the way I'm going to change it. But the mindset and the resilience were there, so they kind of dictated my steps, and obviously coming back home, I'm going to be the best in whatever I do, even at the chicken counter. I'm going to be the best chicken counter boy ever. It's the mindset that defines you. It's the mindset that will help you conquer the world. This is it. You will find a way. It's the goddamn mindset, that you need to equip yourself in order to make it in this life.
I had the most eclectic family that you could ever imagine, surrounded by complete unconditional love. I'm a bloke that fell over a lot without a plan, and then eventually got a break. You sometimes get carried away with everything will be all right, and that's a theme that's run through for many years after that. I'll always be all right, which I believe. I've got no fear, because once you've gone through certain things and you've worked it out, it too shall pass. Everything will be all right. Just surround yourself with good people. Resilience is the need on a pursuit of something to take a punch or a kick or a fall and get through it. It's all right. Go again. So long as the pursuit's worth it or the right thing to do, you've got to take a knock. And I have good days and bad days, but I'll always look for the best in every day, and I'll deal with the bad thing knowing that it will pass. So we got a hat trick of disasters that happened to us within a period of 3 years. But it's definitely my why, and it's definitely why I got through the MBO failure, because there's a bigger purpose to life than just business, right? So if I kind of get to where we are now, I love it. I'm loyal to our culture, and you'd find it hard for me to talk badly about anyone in my team. We're on the same page. We're on a journey. We're all at different parts of our journey. We know where we want to go. We know what success looks like. We know what failure looks like. Without getting all cheesy about it, life is snakes and ladders, isn't it? You want to live to your 100. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to throw a 6, you're going to throw a 1 occasionally, but the game keeps going. Just enjoy the ride, right?
This is the County Business Talks podcast, produced by H2 Productions.